All right, so we're staying with football right here on the SportsMax Zone, and the Rare Nephew Jamaica Premier League returns on Wednesday with 3 of the 7 matches in the round set to take place. Let's take a look at the full slate. So Portmore United will be up against Dunbeholden, and that match, as you can see, live on SportsMax 2. And Humberline, they play Racing United. Tivoli Gardens will be seeing Chapelton Maroons. And just in case you need a... Oh, before we move to the table, Malines up against Mount Pleasant. Vale United, they play Harbourview. Cavalier up against Montego Bay United. And Arnett Gardens against Waterhouse. That's on Thursday. So I give you tomorrow as well as Thursday's fixtures. So let me give you the refresher now. Here's the table. So Mount Pleasant at the top of the table on 52 points, having played 22 matches. Arnett Gardens in second on 49 points. Of course, Montego Bay United in third on 44. Portmore United in fourth on 38. Cavalier and Waterhouse, they round out the top 6. Of course, in relegation zone, Vale United was a new sponsor. They are 13th in 17 points, and Humberline in 14th position on 14 points. Well, altering our position seemed to never cease on the table, and so too on our set. We have made a space for our in-house football analyst. Yeah, Leger Williams. He's here.
I already had the space. I didn't need to make any more.
No, I decided to give you all the space you need so you can be closer to Ricardo.
That's true. I like that. I like that for you.
All right, good to hear. Well, Portmore United up against Dunbeholden. We're here to talk football. Portmore unbeaten in their last 8 matches, going up against a 10th place Dunbeholden team. Talk to me, what are we to expect?
Well, I know it's something that I always say, but I definitely expect a tight game. Dunbeholden are coming into some good form now under the tutelage of Harold Thomas, who has come in and I wouldn't say refreshed the team, but he has taken it back to an older version of Dunbeholden, that was much more solid. He's brought in a few players that he's much more comfortable with. Nicoy Christian returning, Devontae Hodges returning, Dean Andre Thomas now leading the line again. I mentioned the last time that they had transferred away Ricardo Thomas as well, who's now at Arnett Gardens. So this is a new-look Dunbeholden team as opposed to what we would have been seeing prior to the January transfer window, and they're getting some big results. Last time out, they would have beaten Montego Bay United. But this Portmore team, yes, they're in some good form, as you would have mentioned, 8 games without a loss, but 4 of those games have been draws, and they aren't I would say the most thrilling attacking unit. I would say Portmore aren't. So I still think that they lack some goals despite having a lot of attacking quality in their team. So I think this game will be tight, and I don't necessarily see it being very high scoring. But I think this game will be a good, entertaining watch as we see it tomorrow at Freddie Nita Park.
Yeah, and I'm happy you made that point, because it brings me to my question about, Portmore being 4th on the table despite the issues that you would have outlined. What has contributed mainly to their success this season?
I would say defensive solidity and also being very tactically fluid. Firstly, with the defensive solidity, it ties in well with the tactical fluidity, because they have switched between a 4-at-the-back system and a 3-at-the-back system so far this season, but typically they have some cornerstones in their defense, as Stephen Young, who would have gotten a national call-up for the most recently concluded friendlies against Trinidad, Emilio Rousseau, who's always solid as well, and I think that really gives them a platform to form a very solid defense, and their goalkeeping situation has been pretty good as well. Benjamin Williams, another one of those players who was called up in that Jamaica squad. So I think this Portmore team is very solid defensively, and that comes from what they do tactically. And I think firstly, Rudolph Austin and his team tried to not concede, and that's very evident. Usually when you see them concede a goal, it's usually out of the blue or out of nothing. You can think back to even maybe that long shot from Shavani Willis earlier in the season for Arnett Gardens. They tend to defend the box really well. They defend very deep. And I think that can sometimes be, I would say, it really takes away from their attacking output. But defense wins championships, so I cannot be too critical. But I think that's why they've been trucking along and doing well, and 8 games undefeated.
Yeah, you may not have seen the last meeting between them, which ended in a 3-3 draw, a high-scoring fixture. How do you think both teams will will approach this fixture given what happened when they last met?
Yeah, I think, as I was saying, it's a different coaching staff now at Dunbeholden. At the time, it was Bijan Thomas, who was also new into the job because this is Dunbeholden's, I guess you can say, their third coach for the season so far. So they've been going through phases and going through a lot of players as well. So I think, generally speaking, this is a whole new Dunbeholden lineup, a whole new Dunbeholden team with a different ethos, with all new different ideas. So I don't think too much will weigh on the minds of either coach as they're approaching this team for the last meeting. So I do think it will be pretty tight, as I said. I think this Portmore team, if I were to list a favourite, I would say they would be favourite because of how solid they are, all of their January recruits as well, who have hit the ground running. Orlando Russell, Jeremy Lynch, who I'm not sure if he'll be fit for this game. We mentioned Cardell Bembo. We all know how talented of a player he is as well. And when you couple that with all of their talented midfield players and their defenders that are listed before, they are certainly a force to be reckoned with. It's just whether or not they turn up enough to get the 3 points. But I definitely do think that I would give them the slight edge in terms of favoritism.
Yeah, legit, when I hit the road at the start of the season, a number of persons were talking about Rodolphe Austin as the Portmore United coach. And as you know, he wouldn't have been the man leading the line had Mount Pleasant not come back for their coaches in Theodore Whitmore and, of course, Davian Ferguson, who was well set to be at Portmore United. But a lot of people, you know, were suggesting that the jury was out on whether Rodolphe Austin could do the job. We've now passed the midway stage of the regular season, well past it, in fact. What's the word on him now as a coach?
Well, I was a bit skeptical as well when the season had I was a bit skeptical as well when the season had just started. I won't tell a word of a lie. I'm a very honest guy, you know that, Ricardo. But as the season has gone on, one thing I've realized, as I mentioned previously, the tactical fluidity. You guys know I'm obsessed with tactics, so...
Yeah, we know. The viewers know too.
Yeah, everyone knows. That's my thing, and I've seen them swap between systems, and there was a game earlier in the season where I especially liked how they set up. They were at home, and it was against Arnett Gardens, actually, coincidentally, a game that they lost, so you know that this isn't result-based analysis. They played a three-at-the-back system, and how they transition from that three-at-the-back in terms of their build-up, using their goalkeeper to form a back three, one of the centre-backs dropping into a midfield area to almost create a 3-3-4 effect, sometimes a 3-2-5, sometimes a 3-1-6. So they're very fluid in possession and out of possession. As you can see, they work very hard to win the ball back. And secondly as well, they're also a very solid team in their blocks, especially their low block, which I said their box defending is really good, very hard to break down. So a lot of naysayers, I wouldn't say I was a naysayer, I would say a bit skeptical. But anyone who was especially skeptical of Rudolph Austin and his coaching abilities, I think they've been proved wrong. I'm not saying that Portmore are the best coach team in the league. I'm not saying that they're favourites to win, but they're certainly amongst the best, and they deserve where they are right now.
Yeah, just to follow up on Ricardo's question about Austin, a lot of people would not remember that he was at Leeds United in England about 10 years ago and actually captained them one season. So he brings a lot of experience and a lot of know-how and he played in Norway, I think.
Yeah.
So England wasn't the only European place he was. So I would suspect that he would have learned a lot from those experiences, and he would have done his coaching certificates as well. Yeah. Otherwise, he would not have been allowed to coach in the Premier League, wouldn't he?
Yeah, he's currently in the process of getting his CONCACAF A license.
Yes.
He was actually one of the local coaches that I would have mentioned yesterday that would have helped out with the coaching staff for the Reggae Boys in these Trinidad friendlies. So, yeah, he's doing his coaching badges. He's a very qualified coach. And one thing, there's one thing to be a qualified coach, right? You can be a qualified journalist. You can be a qualified doctor. You can get a degree and be a doctor. You can be a lawyer. But when it comes down to using your degree, being active in the field, and then being able to apply what you learn, that's two completely different things.
Correct. And then they always say book sense, but this is like practical sense.
Exactly. So if you are book smart, and you go to the coaching course and they say, okay, this is how you get a team to play 4-2-3-1. But your role as a coach is then to say when a team is shutting down your 4-2-3-1, you switch to another system and you become more fluid. You have to have a plan A, B, and C. Now, a lot of coaches stick to their plan A and don't deviate.
Because that's what the textbook said to do.
Exactly. And you need,
I'm
need
just
more
saying.
than that.
No, but I've noticed that, not only in football, but there are people that are qualified based on their paper.
Yeah.
But then when it's time to actually do the practical aspect, it's like, where were you?
No, because they just, you know what? I'm not commenting on those people. I'm talking about Rudolph Austin and the fact that he's a very good coach and he's proven himself in a big way, I think, this season so far.
So he didn't just get the book sense. He got
No.
Let's move quickly to Cavalier and Mobe because
Yeah.
that's another top game coming up. And these are two teams occupying a playoff position at the moment. Mobe, former champions, but they haven't won a title, I think, in the past 10 years. Cavalier, obviously one of the top teams and most consistent teams year in, year out. How do you see that one going?
No, that's a big game. That doubleheader generally on Thursday, massive is Cavalier, Mobe, and also Arnett Waterhouse at the Anthony Spalding Sports Complex. That Cavalier game will be very tight. The first time they faced each other, it was a 1-1 draw. I expect something similar. I think it will be pretty cagey, but Montego Bay United generally play some very good fluid football, and I was mentioning coaching quality and fluidity in tactics, and you can't really speak about that in the Jamaica Premier League and not mention Rodolfo Zapata, because when I was talking about the best coach teams in the league, he would have to be easily in the top 2 or 3, I think, because of the impact that he has had on this Montego Bay United team. So that would be a very good game. So too the Arnett Waterhouse game, which is dubbed the El Clasico. I'm not quite sure if I agree with that moniker. Because, Arnett Waterhouse, yes, it's a very big game. But I think that, like the Garden Derby, that should have been the El Clasico for Jamaica. I don't know. I don't put on the monikers. I just talk about the football. But
Yeah, so stick to that.
Mara, I realize since City lose, you deal with me very harsh. I don't deserve this.
No,
you need to let out your frustrations and Pep and them, man.
No, man, I deal with people
and
accordingly.
Kovacic.
You're talking about Derby and all
Rico
these
Lewis,
plans.
the players who are giving the goals away.
You too? You ready for your turn?
Me? I can handle myself. Go right ahead.
You don't like the El Clasico for Waterhouse, Arnett, but can you talk a little bit more about this fixture coming up? Because I think because of the political allegiance as well, there's something about the Waterhouse Arnett Gardens clash that is usually riveting for the fans.
Yeah,
and they are among the most highly supported teams in the Premier League. So that is probably part of the reason why it gets that label as a El Clasico.
Yeah, and when I was doing, because I commentated on the game, the first game, the reverse fixture, which Arnett won by a 0-0 a couple of months ago, I would say, and that was played at Waterhouse. And I think Arnett did a very good job of silencing the home support. And down at Waterhouse, that's very difficult to do. So I think Arnett will be they'll be playing at home this time. They'll be looking to have a fast start. They won't want a repeat of what happened the last time they played a match in the Premier League, where they had to come from behind continuously against Tivoli Gardens. So I know they'll have a lot of emotions running high. It will be interesting to see if we see a player like Warner Brown from the start, given the fact that he would have scored a hat-trick in the last Jamaica Premier League game, but would have come off camp very recently for Jamaica. So I think that would be an interesting factor to see, but that would be a huge game, a big game. And I know usually I would say everyone should definitely come out and go to the game or watch the game on the SportsMax channel or the SportsMax app. But I don't need to promote this one. It's very simple for the viewers.
Yeah, of course. And on Thursday, there are also some exciting matchups. Lions will be playing Mount Pleasant. A quick word on that one.
Yeah, I think based on what I've seen so far this season, Mount Pleasant will be looking to rebound well, because they would have lost last time out against Harborview, so they'll be looking to rebound and come with a very positive performance. But also something to look for is the fact that I believe 9 Mount Pleasant players were in that Jamaica squad, so fatigue might also be an issue, while other teams had players resting and recovering from what has been a hectic middle part of the season. Mount Pleasant will have to manage the minutes of their players really well.
Yeah, you say Mount Pleasant, and I know they probably had the majority of players in the Trinidad and Tobago and Jamaica setups.
Yeah.
But I think I've counted 31 players who play in the Jamaica Premier League who were involved in those 2 matches. So how much of an impact do you think that could have on a number of the fixtures, especially the big teams that had players in either the TNT or the Jamaica setup? Montego Bay United, for example, I think had, what, 4 from Trinidad and Tobago alone. Arnett Gardens, you mentioned, Mount Pleasant. All these teams would be impacted by the number of players coming off 2 tough international matches.
Yeah, I think, especially in the case of Mount Pleasant, I would say they had 10 players overall, including Nathaniel James. Then Cavalier would have quite a few players as well, in excess of 5. Montego Bay United, if you were to include the Trinidadian players, plus Shaniel Thomas and Demario Phillips. So it's going to be tough for those teams, especially in the case of Arnett Gardens, where it's just Warner Brown who had a heavy workload. In the case of other teams like Tivoli Gardens, where it would just be Fuller, Portmore, they had Benjamin Williams, who didn't get a minute, Guthrie, who played 45 minutes, Steve Young, who played less than 45 minutes. I think it'll be easier for those teams to really recover and play well still.
But it can also work in the favor of them being extremely motivated too, based on what they would have learned throughout the Jamaica setup and coming to make their mark in the JPL again.
Yeah, because maybe they want to show that they're indeed the big dogs, because they would have... Yeah, they would have gotten that big call-up. They want to defend that place that they would have gotten.
No, and that tends to happen because sometimes, you know, you do a big interview and then you feel so inspired that you want to come back and, you know, do even better.
Yeah, no, that's...
Are you talking about you or the players, Mariah? I'm sorry.
No, she's making the parallels.
I'm trying to make a comparison.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Yeah, come on, man, Ricardo. It's just like, say, for instance, when I commentate a really big game, I'm very eager to come back on the SportsMax Zone and talk.
One of the games where you sing?
I only sing sometimes. I don't know why you're laughing. People always say that they like my singing. And as a matter of fact, people...
Do you like people lying to you?
Well, I mean, I can't stop them from lying to me.
Okay.
Has anyone ever called you Johnny Gill before?
No, not... Sir Lance, one thing I realized with the Jamaican people, you know,
yes.
They don't get the music references. No one realized.
My.
No one realized the my. I remember I was somewhere with our former colleague, Matthew Leiber, and the song was playing. I'm saying, wait, Ligier, them teeth your song. I'm saying, bro, what do you mean? What do you mean, bro? People aren't getting the references, but that's another thing I'm here for. It's not only to teach football, it's to teach music and life as well. A lot of life lessons.
Okay.
So I'll be continuing.
Thanks for that one. My, for real. Can we go to a break?
Yes, we can.
All right.
Yes, please.